Hello, it's the 18th of June. It's Renew Every Morning, and I'm Paul Anderson-Walsh. Thank you so very much for being with me. We're continuing our little vignette story, our series on intercession, and today I'm thinking about an intercessor called Mary Magdalene, and I'm going to call her the intercessor who stayed awake. Now, she's an amazing character for all kinds of reasons, and I just wanted to give you a little sort of postcard on Mary Magdalene because I think it's quite a useful type for us to think about. Now, she doesn't write a gospel. As far as I can see, she doesn't preach a sermon. She doesn't carry a title. That's it. But, and here's the point, she stayed awake. And I think for me, this is something that is really a profound truth with her. It may have been her greatest ministry that she stayed awake. We know very little about her past, actually, but all we do know is dim. We're introduced to her in Luke chapter 8 and verse 2, and it literally says this: Mary, called Magdalene, from whose 7 demons had come out. That's it. Now, by the way, those 7 demons, there's no detail on that, but we can speculate a little bit on that because I think, for me, this is such an interesting statement and she's such an interesting character. You see, first and foremost, 7 is the number of completeness. So to me, immediately that gives me pause to think about Hebrews, where it says he is able to deliver to the uttermost, to save to the uttermost. And I think this is a root and branch transition, a root and branch transformation. This isn't just some sort of little altar call and filled in a form. This is something revolutionary. She is transformed, transfigured. Now, she wasn't just slightly unwell. This woman was wholly undone, and it's so powerful. Now, whether or not it's spiritual torment, whether or not it's psychological trauma, whether or not it's deep shame, whether it's societal exclusion, we don't know, but we do know for sure it's a combination of things that were so gripping her and so paralyzing to her that that's how she was known. But we also know this: Jesus had a stroke with a smile, with a look of love, set her free. And after that moment of being set free, she never, ever left his side. She followed him across the Galilean countryside, step by step, pace by pace, blazing sun, never left, always there. She supports the ministry financially, by the way. She stayed when others fled. She's still there. She stood near the cross. She wept at the womb. She watched and she waited, and she was the first person to witness the resurrection. Now that, I tell you, is powerful. She's a very different kind of intercessor, though, isn't it? Because typically we might think about intercession in terms of, the standing in the gap. We might think about people that pray. We might think about something more dramatic, a sort of more of an Elijah idea. But not here. This is something totally different. This isn't about warring in the heavens. Mary shows a very, very different way. She doesn't really intercede with words. She intercedes with her presence. Her presence stands in the gap. With loyalty, she stands in the gap. With watchfulness, she stands in the gap. And with love, she stands in the gap. And while others sleep in Gethsemane, there she is preparing spices. That's how she is. While others scatter, she lingers and stays at the tomb. While others give up, she waits for dawn. She holds space, not for herself, but for what might be. And that, for me, seems to be just so glorious. And of course, we just need to hold on to that, right? Because this is the intercession of staying awake, not falling asleep on the job. And I wonder in some respects whether she becomes a sort of prototype believer, whether she's a kind of perfect template for what it looks like to be free in Christ. First and foremost, and I don't think she's a footnote on the gospel. I think she might frame it. She's the first to be healed. She's the first to believe. She's the first to witness. She's the first to be commissioned. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. She doesn't speak so much. This reminds me of the old phrase, who is it, Augustine? At all times preach the gospel, but only when you absolutely have to speak. She lives it out. And if she is the prototype believer, the template believer, if you like, she's free not to perform. She's free just to follow. She doesn't argue. She just abides. She doesn't control. She just watches and she waits peacefully. She doesn't need a pulpit. She's got presence. She doesn't need a stage. She's got sight. She sees what others might miss because she stays and she stays awake while others walk away. We see her as the intercessor in the garden, right? Mary stood between what was and what would be. That's who she is. She's in that gap between straddling life and death, if you will, the old and the new, between the trauma of the Friday and the triumph of the Sunday. She's the one that's in the gap. She stayed and she made ready everything. She didn't know the resurrection was coming, but she stayed awake. As soon as the Passover was over and the light broke, she was out the door and she was there at the tomb. It wasn't her, it wasn't Peter. And remember, Jesus said, Peter, upon this rock I'll build my church. So you might be forgiven for thinking that Jesus would first and foremost appear to Peter, or maybe John. But no, neither of those. Mary Magdalene, the woman who had 7 demons driven out of her. That's who Jesus shows up for. It's incredible. And this says there's something in it for all of us, right? Some carry wounds we can't name, we daren't name, we wouldn't name. We have our own demons, right? Our own 7 demons that walk around with us. Some of us love quietly and fiercely, but without any applause. Some of us knows what it means to keep the vigil during the late hours, those night hours, that night watch. Some of us are still waiting for dawn. But take heart. Mary tells me that we're not forgotten, we're not late, and we're not alone. You might be the one he'll call by name when light finally breaks. So, for those of us who want to stay awake, we hold the space, we show up, we intercede, not needing to be seen, not needing the show. We believe not because we have all the answers, but because we've been found. And that's it. You're the Marys. That's the one. And you are the ones the world will call last, but heaven will call first. So for me, that's love on the job. Mary stood outside the tomb crying. She turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't, watch this, she didn't realize that it was Jesus. Mary is so wonderful. It's when he calls her name that she knows. And he has called you, and he has called me by name. And may we be renewed, and may we be encouraged. All right, God bless you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.